Hello, let's welcome all of you for the day 3 book reading challenge. That is the ask and it is given by Esther Hicks and the Jerry Hicks. So let's begin with our today's book reading. So yesterday we have stopped till this point that the quote given by the Abraham, and today we'll be starting from that. What is exactly Abraham? The spiritual guide of Esther Hicks and the Jerry Hicks wanted to say. Abraham explained that they had been offering these blocks of thoughts to me for quite some time. But I was so strictly trying to follow Theo's instructions, which said, when your mind wanders, and it will, release the thoughts and focus on your breathing. That whatever one of these thoughts would begin, I would release it as quickly as possible and focus back upon my breathing. I guess the only way they could get through to me was to spell letters in the air with my nose. Abraham says that those wonderful sensations that rippled through my body when I realized that I was spelling words was the joy they felt upon my recognition of our conscious connection. Our communication process evolved rapidly over the next few weeks. The spelling of the letters in the year with my nose was a very slow process, but Jerry was so excited about this clear and viable source of information that he would wake me up in the middle of the night to ask the Abraham questions. But then one night I felt a very strong sensation moving through my arms, hands, and fingers, and my hand began thumping on Jerry's chest as we lay in bed together watching television. As my hand continued to thump, I felt a very strong impulse to go to my IBM selective typewriter, selectric typewriter. And as I put my fingers on the keyboard, my hands began moving quickly up and down the keys as if someone was quickly discovering what this typewriter was all about and where the specific letters were placed. And then my hands began to type every letter, every number again and again. And then the words began to take form on the paper. I am Abraham. I am your spiritual guide. I am here to work with you. I love you. We will work, we will write a book together. We discovered that I could put my hands on the keyboard and then relax, much in the same way what I did during meditation. And that Abraham, who we will now refer to as they from here on in, would then answer questions about anything that Jerry would ask. It was an amazing experience. They were so intelligent, so loving, and so available. Anytime, day or night, they were there to talk to us about anything that we wanted to discuss. Then one afternoon, while driving to Phoenix Freeway, I felt a sensation in my mouth, chin, and neck, similar to the familiar feeling of getting ready to yawn. It was a very strong impulse, so strong I couldn't stifle it. We were rounding a corner between two big trucks, and both of them seemed to be crossing the line into our lane at the same time. And I thought for a moment that they were going to drive right over the top of us. And in that very moment, the first word that Abraham spoke, my mouth burst out. Take the next exit. We exited the freeway and parked in a lot underneath an overpass, and Jerry and Abraham visited for hours. My eyes were closed tightly and my head moved up and down rhythmically as Abraham answered Jerry's stream of questions. How is it that this wonderful thing has happened to me. At times, as I think about it, I can hardly believe that it's true. It seems like the kind of thing that fairy tales are made of, almost like making a wish as you rub the magic lantern. At other times, it seems like the most natural logical experience in the world. Sometimes I can barely remember that life was like before Abraham came into our lives. I have, with few expectations, always been what most would call a happy person. I had a wonderful childhood with no major traumas, and along with two other sisters. I was born to kind and loving parents. As I mentioned, Jerry and I had been blissfully married for 4 years, and I was, in every sense, living happily ever after. I wouldn't have described myself as someone filled with unanswered questions. In fact, I really wasn't taking in many questions at all, and I hadn't formulated any strong opinion about much of anything. Jerry, on the other hand, was filled with passionate questions. He was voracious reader, always looking for tools and techniques that he could pass along to others to help them live more joyous lives. To this day, I would never known anyone who wants more to help others live successfully lives. Abraham has explained that the reason why Jerry and I are the perfect combination for doing this work together is because Jerry's powerful desire summoned Abraham, while my absence of opinions or the angst made me good receiver for the information that Jerry was summoning. Jerry was so enthusiastic, even in his first interactions with Abraham, because he understood the depth of their wisdom and the clarity of their offering. And throughout all these years, his enthusiasm for Abraham's message hasn't wanted in the least. No one in the room ever enjoys what Abraham has to say more than Jerry. In the beginning of our interactions with Abraham, we didn't really understand what was happening, and we had no real way of knowing whom Jerry was talking with. But it was still thrilling and amazing and wonderful. And I weird. It seemed so strange that I was certain that most people I knew wouldn't understand. They probably wouldn't even want to understand. As a result, I made Jerry promise that he would tell no one about our amazing secret. I get I guess it's now obvious that Jerry didn't keep that promise. But I'm sorry about that. There is nothing that either of us would rather do than be in a room filled with people who have things they would like to discuss with Abraham. What we hear most often from people who meet Abraham through our books, videos, audio series, workshops, or website is thank you for helping me remember what I have somehow always, and this has helped me tie together all the pieces of the truth that I have found along the way. This has helped me make sense of everything. Abraham doesn't seem interested in forecasting our future as a fortune teller might, although I believe that they always know what our future holds. But instead of they are teachers who guide us from wherever we are to whatever we to wherever we want to be. They have explained to us that it's not their work to decide what we should want, but it is their work to assist us in achieving whatever. we desire. In Abraham's words, Abraham is not about guiding anyone toward or away from anything. We want you to make all your decisions about your desires. Our only desire for you is that you discover the way to achieve your desires. My favorite thing that I have ever heard spoken about Abraham came to us from teenage boy who had just listened to a recording in which Abraham was addressing some questions that teens had been asking. The boy said, "At first, I didn't believe that Esther was really speaking for Abraham. But when I heard the tape and heard Abraham's answer to these questions, I then knew that Abraham was real because there was no judgment. I don't believe that any person could be so wise, so fair, and without judgment. For me, this journey with Abraham has been more wonderful that I can find words to explain. I adore the sense of well being I have achieved from what I have learned from them. I love how their gentle guidance always leaves me with a feeling of self empowerment. I love seeing the lives of so many of our dear friends and new friends improving through the application of what Abraham has taught them. I love having this brilliant and loving being pops into my head whenever I ask, always ready and willing to assist in our understanding of something. As an aside, several years after our meeting with Sheila and Theo, Jerry looked up the name Theo in our dictionary. The meaning of Theo, he joyously announced to me, is God. How perfect that is. I smile as I reflect back on that wonderful day. What was such an extraordinary turning point for us? There I was worried about interacting with evil, when I was, in fact, on my way or to having a conversation with God. In the early days of our work with Abraham, our audiences wanted us to explain our relationship with Abraham. How did your meeting occur? How do you maintain your relationship? Why did they choose you? What is it like to be the speaker of such a profound wisdom? So, Jerry and I would spend a few minutes at the beginning of every speaking engagement or radio or television interview, trying our best to satisfy those questions. But I always felt impatient with that part of our presentation. I just wanted to relax and allow Abraham's consciousness to begin flowing and to get on with what Jerry and I felt was a true reason we were standing there to begin with. Eventually, we create a free introduction to Abraham recording that people could listen to at their leisure, which explains the details of how our Abraham experience began and evolved. We have now posted that 74 minutes of the introduction as a free download at www.abrahamhicks.com, our interactive website to explain who we are and what we were doing before meeting Abraham. We both very much enjoy our part in the process of getting Abraham's message into a format that can be heard and utilized by others. But to us, Abraham's message has always felt like the main event. This morning, Abraham said to me, Esther, we are aware of the questions that are radiating from the mass consciousness of our planet. And here, through you, we will joyously offer the answers. Relax and enjoy the delicious unfolding of this book. So I am going to relax here and allow the Abraham to immediately begin writing this book to you. I imagine that will explain to you from their perspective who they are. But more important, I believe that they will help you come to understand who you are. It is my desire that your meeting with Abraham will be as meaningful for you as it continues to be for us with love, Esther. So we have finished this first part, that is the introduction to the Abraham. And tomorrow we'll be starting this first part, that is the things that we know that you or may have forgotten, which are important for you to remember. So this is the power of feeling of good now. This chapter will be starting from tomorrow. So till that time, see you. Keep smiling. Keep reading. Thank you so much for reading with me.